So welcome everyone. Welcome to the webinar. This is the Inside the Energy Assessment webinar. We are going to go ahead and get started here. Some logistics to start out with before we begin is we will have questions through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. We'll go ahead and answer them at the end of the presentation. The attendee audio is not enabled, but you will get the chance to ask your questions at the end of the presentation. We'll share a copy of this presentation with all the registrants, and a link to the webinar will be shared along with a copy of the presentation. Some details getting into the presentation. I will be the moderator. My name is Hannah Olson, and I am an outreach lead for the Multifamily Energy Savings Program. You're also going to be hearing from Sean Jones. He's an energy advisor who will be giving some examples of work in the field. And then Jared Spang is the pipeline manager for the Multifamily Energy Savings Program, and you'll be hearing from him as well. So what is the Multifamily Energy Savings Program? This program, the ESA program, is a combination of common area and in-unit upgrades. It is ratepayer funded by the California Public Utilities Commission. The Multifamily Energy Savings Program provides no cost and reduced cost energy efficiency upgrades. There's free project assistance to qualifying affordable multifamily properties and residents that are in California. Some of these upgrades include building envelope weatherization, domestic water heating, space heating and cooling, lighting, appliances and plug loads, and electrification. We also have a full list of eligible upgrades at the link below, esamultifamily.com/eligibility. This program is going to be implemented through December 2026, so we are still accepting applications. Some of the eligibility requirements of the program is that we require that the property is an existing property. We don't take new construction at the moment, so we're just looking at that the equipment is at least 5 years old to qualify for a retrofit. We are looking that you receive electric or natural gas services from either one of these 4 providers listed below. So there's PG&E, SDG&E, SCE, and SoCal Gas. We define multifamily as having 5 or more units, so each unit shares at least a wall, floor, or ceiling with another unit. The incentive coverage varies for deed and non-deed restricted properties for common area measures. That would be deed restricted is properties that have a regulatory agreement, and non-deed restricted properties are one that do not have a regulatory agreement. And we look at income thresholds that are established at 250% of the federal poverty level based on household size to determine if the property meets the income requirements. And the purpose of the webinar here is just to provide a clear overview of the energy assessment process using some real world field examples. We want to highlight the energy efficiency benefits and the value of conducting these energy assessments. And then we also are just wanting to explain the benchmarking requirements for multifamily properties and talk a little bit about why benchmarking matters. So I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Sean, who's going to be talking about what is an energy assessment.
All right, thank you, Hannah. And once again, just like to welcome everyone to this webinar and thank you for taking time out of your day and this. Yeah, great to have you. And so, yeah, what is an energy assessment? As you see from our graphic here, the energy assessment or property assessment happens after the property qualification and before the project approval letter. We'll get into that kind of process a little bit more in a bit, but just want to show you where that happens overall. And what the energy assessment is a physical walkthrough of the buildings on site, focused on the common area spaces and examination of the central building systems like HVAC, water heating, and the documentation of equipment that meet program eligibility. So we're going to be focusing on things that we can actually incentivize and assist in replacing. And we'll discuss and it takes place, as I mentioned, after the qualification stage before project approval or any bids. And we'll discuss, we can get into the difference in between in-unit and common area assessments next. Thank you. So the in-unit is the equipment inside of an apartment or rental dwelling unit within the multifamily complex. And the common area we define as buildings, areas that are used by tenants and or staff that are not residences. So places like the clubhouse you see on the right, um, exterior areas like pools, parking garages, all those kind of places will be considered common areas. And it's important to note that, or if we can stay on the previous slide really for just a little bit longer, it's important to note that the in-unit and common area evaluations do not always occur at the same time or with the same contractors. So while they are separate processes, our goal is to complete the in-unit assessment as closely aligned with the common area assessment as possible. And I'm going to describe the in-unit upgrades versus common area upgrades. And so this are the main, I guess our webinar is going to be primarily focused on common areas, but the in-unit upgrade is for income qualified properties or individual residents that receive energy efficiency and weatherization improvements to their units. The program will work closely with owners to qualify the entire property for upgrades to every unit. However, when the entire property does not qualify, all income eligible residents can still receive those in-unit upgrades. And common area upgrade, the common area upgrade is for income qualified properties. They can receive no cost and reduced cost upgrades for quality energy efficiency and weatherization improvements to the property's common areas, like I mentioned before, hallways, community rooms, laundry rooms, leasing offices, outdoor recreation areas, parking lots, and the central heating and cooling systems. And what is a whole building upgrade, where that's our most popular way to get into the program. And we're hoping that it's great when your property can qualify for both. And the whole building upgrade is when properties can receive upgrades that benefit residents and owners under one program. These combined services are referred to as whole building upgrades and include building envelope upgrades like windows for the entire property, equipment upgrades that benefit both the residents and common areas. So yeah, so a great opportunity. Next slide, please. The benefits of an energy assessment. Number one, it reduces energy use and cost. So that can mean lower utility bills, lower operating expenses. For instance, you have non-LED lighting right now on poles and you're paying to replace we're playing every year or so to replace those lights, or in hallways you have 100 lights and those need replacing every 2 years, and if you get those replaced by LED, those are operating costs sliced. Or you're currently repairing HVAC repeatedly, or your hot water system is old and you're having to have repairs and maintenance done on all the time, or your maintenance staff is spending a lot of time on these areas. So these energy assessments can help reduce those. Supporting sustainability and reporting. One of the other benefits of the energy assessment is that we produce a energy report or property assessment report that can be used for to meet several requirements. We also will prepare a benchmarking report that will go into a little more details shortly. My colleague Jared will explain that. And the report also allows you to gain visibility into the property and portfolio's energy performance and informs future energy efficiency planning and investments with a breakdown of the existing equipment there, and what equipment could be used to replace that, and some of the possible savings as far as energy on that. Next graphic. And additional value of the on-site visit includes, you get a chance to talk to the program team in person. I'm one of the field leads that would potentially see you, come meet you at your property and assess the property. And it allows you to, ask additional program questions. Maybe you have some areas on the property you're not sure about, some equipment, different items that maybe you just want to go into a little more detail. And that maybe you haven't had time before that, and also can give a chance for developer or for some of the other people on the project team to, come out, see the site. A lot of times people haven't seen the site in a while, or a lot of times people enjoy coming out and really getting to see the property, walking it with us and seeing, what exactly is going on at the property at that time. And next slide, please. So now we're going to do a little assessment walkthrough and kind of go through what we do, what a couple, what leads up to the assessment, and what we do while we're on site. Next slide. So the assessment, what does the process look like? So we have, obviously on that first slide, we talked about how the assessment happens after the property has been enrolled or qualified. So after the property has been enrolled, um, the enrollment lead is going to send you an email introducing you to your energy lead and your field lead, along with an optional pre-assessment survey. And that's a brief survey, about 8 questions that you see on the screen now. And that's optional. It does help. Our goal is to get the assessment scheduled within 2 weeks of the enrollment lead sending that survey out. So it really helps if you're the project contact, but not necessarily the property contact, to make sure that information is being shared with the property contact, or if you're doing the scheduling on behalf of them, to just, make sure that communication is open. And your field lead will be introduced. Um, your field lead will be introduced. Oh, so sorry about that. Just going to go over. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. And so your field lead will be introduced in that previous slide mentioned, and um, and they will be also known as the assessor, and they're going to be responsible for scheduling, coordinating, and performing the property assessment. And so the field lead inputs the property data from their site visit and uses that information to draft the property assessment report. And that field lead can be identified by their blue ESA Multifamily Energy Savings and or TRC branded shirt, along with the ISN ID badge you see in the center, along with program business cards and or ID cards. So this is going to help avoid confusion and support safe and secure environment for residents, staff while we're on site. So everybody knows who we are. Obviously, you're going to have our contact information through scheduling, but that way, when we show up, we have ID. You'll know who we are. And we had a little bandwidth issue, so I turned my camera off, but I'm wearing that shirt now, so we're easy to identify on site. Okay, next slide, and we'll get into some of the systems we evaluate while we're on site. I know we mentioned some of some of those common areas, but so we get into some systems. We have, we have HVAC, lighting, building envelope, which is going to include items like windows and insulation, appliances like washers and refrigerators, water heating, and NGAT testing, which is combustion safety testing that we provide on common area gas appliances. So we check those for gas leaks while we're there. And also if we notice anything as far as like CO leak, or carbon monoxide leaks or anything like that, we will also make a note, um, test if needed, and take further steps if we notice there's any dangerous or failing equipment on site while we're there. And next slide, please. So one of the most popular items we replace is lighting. So lighting, eligible measures include interior and exterior, the replacement of any non-LED lighting in common areas, and installation of occupancy sensors. Um, egi- Eligible upgrades include both full fixture replacements and lamp/bulb replacements, depending on the compatibility and site conditions. Um, so staff knowledge of existing lighting inventory is very helpful to support the evaluation and scoping of lighting. So for instance, a lot of properties have a list with, you know, where the different fixtures are. They have paperwork that shows the type of fixtures that are on the property and different things like that. A lot of times maintenance supervisors are able to show us some of the lamps that they use to replace things with, give us numbers, estimates like, say 40% of the hallway lights have been transitioned into LED, but we still have a lot of non-LED lights. Just little information like that helps us to gather our information. As you see here is a T8 light in Chowchilla. This was a very common, it's probably the most common lamp that we replace here in the program. Uh, Next slide, please. Water heating, definitely a very popular measure. As we see here is a standard 80% efficient tanked water heater at a property in Aptos, California. So this is very common. Many clubhouses and or office laundry rooms have water heater systems like this, and we replace these frequently with condensing style, high efficiency water heating. Also, heat pump water heaters are available as well. Next slide. Here we're on a rooftop evaluating some HVAC systems in Walnut Creek. And our HVAC assessment will consist of residential sized equipment only. So if the property has commercial size equipment, that wouldn't be eligible for replacement, nor would it be a focus of an assessment. But we focus on heating systems, cooling systems, and note some cooling measures may be restricted depending on the climate zone you're in or the property that the property's in. Multiple system types can qualify for replacement, including package units, wall heaters, and more. And we can go to the next slide, please. So you see here we have some treated furnace. We have on the before, we have a left non-condensing lower efficiency model. And you can tell lower efficiency furnace from the other. If you see on the right, we have a metal flue, and then on the left, we have a metal flue, and on the right, we have a high efficiency condensing furnace. We can be identified by the white PVC flue, if you see that kind of white pipe going through the roof up there. And so that's one way you can identify. So if we might ask you what kind of systems you have on site, if you happen to know you have a metal flue, you'll be able to quickly tell us that you have a lower efficiency system. And this is a popular upgrade measure as it improves energy efficiency, reduce energy costs, and overall system performance and reliability. This is often paired with a smart thermostat. And we're going to take a little side venture and get into benchmarking with Jared.
Sweet. Thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Jared. I am the pipeline manager and also the benchmarking lead for the program. We'll go over some benchmarking. Benchmarking. So it's the process of measuring and comparing a building's energy use to similar buildings of size to identify the gas and energy consumption, the cost, the greenhouse gas emission, and then as well as actionable goals. So property level benchmarking, it's a program requirement for all properties that enroll in ESA at no cost. And then this requirement, so it stems from the California Energy Commissions, so the CEC, Statewide Energy Benchmarking Public Disclosure Requirement, backed by Assembly Bill 802. So under the Assembly Bill 802, it mandates that owners of multifamily buildings with more than 50,000 square feet and 17 or more utility accounts must report their energy usage annually to the CEC by June 1st each year. And then, so benchmarking helps with identifiable opportunities. It helps prioritize cost-effective investments, allows owners to monitor the effectiveness of energy saving efforts over time, and then as well as it can engage occupants by raising awareness. So on-site assessment support benchmarking by validating the property characteristics, verifying the utility meter information, and then confirming the building use details. Benchmarking can provide property owners and managers increased visibility into how their buildings perform relative to similar properties. So that means, so it'll take properties that have similar square footage and then compare those buildings together. And then, as stated above, the benefits of benchmarking can help property owners and managers make decisions surrounding energy efficiency upgrades. And then some of the tools we use for benchmarking, so it's supported through the PG&E benchmarking portal, and then something called ESPM, which stands for Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So essentially, we get the application, we upload it to the PG&E benchmarking portal, and then they will share the meter information with us. And then from there, we create an ESPM account, and then share it with the PG&E account, and then they'll upload all of the information to ESPM, and that's kind of where we get all of this information that's in this slide right here. So ESPM will help us generate consistent metrics like Energy Star score, which you can see is the top one, source energy use, site energy use, energy cost, and then the total greenhouse gas emissions. So this specific example, so we have the Energy Star score of 85, and then we also have the average program participant, which is 77. So you can see this property is doing pretty well. And then the average property, so that comes from ESPM. So that's 50. So you can see, yeah, this property is doing great. And then the 10% target savings from baseline. So this will give like the property like a 10% goal. And if it's above 85, there is no goal because 75 is like considered high. So there's no 10% savings from that. But you can see from site energy intensity, 55.9, and then 10% target savings from that would be 54.2, and then so on for source energy intensity and then total greenhouse gas emissions. But yeah, so this slide, this comes from one of our reports, but it's very similar to what you would see in ESPM. Yeah, you can gather all of this data and then we create a report and send it back. And then send the login information for ESPM, which can be used to send it to the CEC. But yeah, that is all for benchmarking. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you so much, Jared, for that information. And so to get back into the assessment, how do you prepare for your assessment? So one of those things is Jared might be asking you for some information to get you signed up for benchmarking. But overall, what we, we want to do is the must-haves would be to complete and return your pre-assessment survey. That's the most helpful. Now, that is, an optional survey, but really it's about 7, 8 questions, and they really help us prepare for the site assessment. Just things like confirming how many buildings are on property and the type of water heating systems you have on property, if you're aware of those type of things. Provide your field lead with a site map, and hopefully that site map has building names and unit info. Once again, helps us prepare. Give proper notice to residents for unit sampling and or entry. part of the common area assessment does include a sampling of units. Usually we like to enter about 4 to 7 units, depending on how many units you have there on site. Um, Vacant units are great. That allows us to get that some of the information about the equipment in the units without disturbing residents. So and giving proper notice to staff as well. Like I said, mentioning that if you're scheduling on behalf of your property manager and or maintenance manager, just making sure they're aware and our staff isn't showing up surprising them, or they have a meeting scheduled that day or anything like that. So just making sure the staff is given proper notice and are prepared for our site visit. Things that help: if you're able to provide past energy assessments, property needs assessments, or capital needs assessments, bids for planned work, and or any other relevant documents, site plans, blueprints, anything like that. Like I said, lighting schedules, old, receipts for equipment purchases for, HVAC maintenance, anything like that, could give us an idea. Would- is always welcome. And next slide, please. And after the energy assessment, what you can expect. So as you see on this slide is the timeline of how things happen. So after your energy assessment, you can expect after about, you see 15 business days, so maybe about 3 weeks, you can expect a report. And that report's going to be coming from your energy advisor, who might be the same person who comes out and does your site assessment, but not always, or quite frequently two different people. So you receive that report, and that report's going to have all of our recommendations for replacements or eligible measures at your property, along with just um, uh, documentation of existing equipment as well. So maybe you didn't have a nice organized list of all your boilers or water heaters or different things like that, and now we would have a table that's going to have all the year, model number, serial number of your equipment. So another little benefit for that. So after that, you get your report, and then after you get your report, we would look to schedule a customer consultation call with you. And that is optional, but highly recommended. So during that customer consultation call, we'd review the report with you and recommendations. So it gives you a chance to go over all the recommended measures and equipment, discuss next steps, and that will lead us to the incentive acceptance form. And so once you have received your report and decided on measures, you will select, what measures you would want on an incentive acceptance form, and provide your energy advisor with spec sheets for those measures. So what the cool thing about our program is we don't make you buy a certain type of equipment. So let's say, we recommend you get a new air conditioning system. The report's going to tell you the system has to be, this size and, meet these specs. But you're going to be able to choose, from whatever brand you want, as long as it meets those specs. So that's, gives you and your contractor a lot of flexibility. So what you would do is submit the specs for all the measures. And that just lets us review the equipment to make sure it qualifies for the program. And all those qualifications, like I said, are going to be in the report. And so once you have all that information, the spec sheets of what you intend to install, you're going to submit that to your energy advisor. We'll look it over. If all the specs, meet program requirements, then we would produce a project approval letter that's going to lay out all the measures for you. We'd also give you a list of locations and model numbers of all the equipment to be replaced, and how much is reserved, how much incentive in a dollar amount is reserved for each of those. So it's very clear for you to be able to get information and compare what we're going to be able to incentivize to quotes, bids, anything like that from contractors. And then once we have approved those spec sheets, then we give you that project approval letter, and that's where we figure out when your project is going to start, when it's going to end, and that project approval letter is going to give you information like, after your project's ending, how long you have to submit the documentation, things like permits and all that kind of fun stuff. So after you have your project approval letter and have decided on start and end dates, you would sign that, or I mean, we issue that to you, and that's yours. And then you're good to go. You're good to start, and you're good to start on construction and installations. And um, that's pretty much what we have for the energy assessment section. And I'm sure we'll get into some questions. So back to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the Q&A section here. So go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A box below, and we will start going through them in just a minute.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. So we do have a few questions in the chat already. What is the program's position on fuel switching, i.e. from natural gas furnace to a heat pump system?
I guess I can take this one. So we do offer fuel switching. I guess it depends. Some of the details, I guess, would depend on, well, I guess that measure you called out in particularly, we do, I guess we do offer fuel switching. I guess there are some limitations depending on who is your electricity and or gas provider. So the fuel switching is most easily accomplished when you have the same gas and electricity provider. But we have, we have measures for both heating and water heating as far as fuel switching. So we have heat pump water heaters and heat pumps, very popular measures.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Another question. You mentioned heat pump for domestic hot water. Are you offering heat pumps for in-unit or for central system?
So both, but not all units will qualify for heat pumps. So, and that is something that can depend on the climate zone. So we do have some unit heat pumps, but some of those are it would depend on sometimes it depends on the window setup of the unit. One of our heat pumps is a window mounted heat pump. So the window seal has to meet some different specifications. It needs to be a certain distance from the ground. The seal can be, needs to be, a limited width. And the window would need to open up like vertically. But there are instances where there are different measures. So once we see the actual equipment for some of the unit measures, it really is dependent on the existing material and kind of setup of the unit.
Got it. Thank you. And I'm wondering if this is a follow-up to a previous question, but the question is, so is it a problem in SMUD territory?
I'm guessing that's relating to fuel switching.
Mm-hmm.
If so, it's limited. It is limited in SMUD territory, yes.
Got it. Another question. We participated in the ESA multifamily program last year. We received a new water heater and also 8 mini splits. My question is, are there more opportunities for upgrades like windows, induction stoves, washer dryer for common area, etc.?
I mean, windows are a measure. Especially if you participated in the past, what we usually do is review that scope, or review what was completed against what's available now. Because sometimes we have projects who maybe were past participants but ran up against a deadline and or couldn't find the right contractor. And so their scope was reduced, but now they're able to come back and complete it. Or I'm in the process right now of closing out a project that received new LED lighting and HVAC, but their water heater was too new in 2020. And then so we replaced it last month. And so that's kind of one instance where, or an example of properties who've participated twice.
Got it. Um, and then, so this is a comment about the regionality in the window offerings. Can you please talk through that?
Sure. Well, I know, so I guess I would have to get some details about what's available in the southern region, or if you do not have PG&E for gas um, service, I could get some more information. I'm not certain about that. If there that there is a difference for Windows in particular. I know in the other region, in the southern, not the other region, but in the southern region, there is a difference in some of the um, heating measures and cooling measures, but I'm not
Yeah,
certain on the Windows right now, but we can definitely provide that answer in a follow-up for the respondents.
yeah, sounds good. And we do have somebody here from the southern part of the program. If Fatima, you want to
Yeah,
maybe
thank
elaborate on that?
you. Yes, thank you. So yeah, I'm part of the Southern program of multifamily, and unfortunately, we do not in the South offer windows. We do offer ceiling, all type of weatherization, but we don't replace the actual windows. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Another question that we have here is, can you give some examples of projects that have replaced common area hot water heaters for, say, 50 to 100 unit buildings, as to what contractor cost was and what was the rebate size? Example, as sorry, example, as to low income properties and market rate. This would be in SCE and SoCal gas service areas.
Sure. I mean,
Maybe,
we replaced water heaters. Yeah, maybe Fatima wants to cover that if she has any numbers off the top of her head. I don't have incentive numbers handy, but like I said, water heating is one of our most common items that are replaced, and they're often replaced you know, at zero cost, between 80% to zero cost to the yeah, up to 80%. I mean, up to 100%, but frequently the out-of-pocket expense is, less than, 15%. And a lot of times it can be zero. It really depends on the contractor. Um, yeah, I guess the setup to be able to give an incentive, it just kind of varies. So it's going to depend on the size, what's the capacity, if there are any does the install require, any changing of the flue, relocation, and, anything like that? We take into account those things. So, if you're getting a higher end, like, we might, there's 93% or 98% efficiency water heaters. So we take into account things like capacity, this, and the efficiency, and then so the incentive is going to change based on that. So like if you replace a 50-gallon, 90% water heater isn't going to have as high as incentive as a 100-gallon, 98% water heater. And if the installation requires um, things like additional plan review from the city or any things like that, all those things can be covered. So things like permit cost, all those things can be covered. Just, document, provide permit receipts for such things. If you need engineering calculations or anything like that, provide all those things, and those we can add those to the incentive.
Thank you. And then just as a reminder for folks, if you have some questions, there's the Q&A button that you can drop your questions into in the chat. Next question, do incentives need to be reserved in advance of work?
Yes, ideally to be, for, I guess it's in your best interest. You can start in, so for instance, I've had a project where they went ahead and installed some lighting before getting the lighting approved, and we weren't able to incentivize all their lighting because they picked some fixtures that did not meet California Title 24 standards. Um, so in situations like that, it's definitely best to wait until the item has been approved, especially at least wait until your property has been assessed before installing. Um, yeah.
Good question. So another one, does this program have financing tools to help with other costs that exceed any incentive?
I know that I know if any of the Spock team is on, but I know we have, so I don't know that off the hand. I don't believe the program necessarily does, but I know that, they can be connected. Fatima's gonna provide a better answer for that.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. The program does not offer financing, but the different utilities do. For example, SoCal Gas has their own part of the program that they are able to finance. Obviously, it would need to be approved, but yes, there is that option. Also wanted to add the program, our goal is to cover 100% of whatever was installed whenever possible. An example that I like to use is attic insulation. We might cover the actual insulation, but let's say there's a leak in the roof, that might not be covered under the program. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, to speak on that, some repairs um, that would be needed to be completed before something could go in aren't necessarily covered. So that's something to keep in mind.
Great, thank you. Another question, how long does the evaluation process take?
And I guess when evaluation, I'm just curious, is that, for enrollment or evaluating the property as far as like the assessment, like how much
I
time on
Yeah,
site / report?
I think let's keep it to the energy assessment since that's the focus of this.
Sure. So most property assessments are going to take right about 2 hours, depending, 2 to 3 hours. Obviously, if you are a property with, over 10 buildings and many common area uh, equipment, such, like you have 10 buildings and, every one of those buildings has two water heaters and, then it could take up to 4 hours. But I'd say the most common time is right about 2.5 hours. And some properties with minimal common area space, we can, be done in as short as an hour. And for the property owner or for the on-site staff, we don't necessarily need you to be with us for that entire time. So, so you can go along with your day. Sometimes, if you can open up mechanical closets or areas, just give us access to where equipment is, or unlock it, or give us keys, give us a site map with some instructions. We can do a lot of um, the walking around the property and assessing it on our own. Usually, we like for someone from the property to be with us for when we're doing the unit sampling, unless those units are vacant, then we can do that on our own as well. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, and then I think Fatima has some additional to follow up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Sean in case they were asking, also asking about after the assessment, how long that takes. Can you speak to that? Like after the assessor goes out and assesses the property, what's the timeline for the property assessment report?
Sure. Yeah, so our goal is 15 business days, so about like 3 weeks. And what you can do if you're unsure, or say it's been a couple weeks and you have some questions, or you just have some questions, you want to reach out to your energy advisor. So that email that intro email is going to have contacts, it's going to have your energy advisor and your field lead. So you're going to want to just reach out to your energy advisor, and you can just, ask them if there's an update, or a lot of times they can give you some preliminary measures or recommendations. So usually when after I visit the site, I send the energy advisor a quick breakdown and say, hey, there's 10 water heaters, half of them are eligible. This property can also do windows and insulation. Or, hey, the AC is all brand new, the lighting's all brand new, but we can do the pool pump, their pool pump's eligible and their pool heater is eligible. So items like that, or just a quick little summary, is what usually I give the advisor while they're in ahead of the report. So if you are kind of curious, or just really looking forward to getting that information so you can move forward after I'd say 2 weeks, feel free to message your energy advisor and ask for an update, or ask if they can maybe give you a summary of some of the potential measures there.
Great, thank you. Couple of questions just came in. For a prior participant, how would the process be to review the scope of work and what's available? Is it a new application, new assessment?
And before I dig in there, I think Fatima has
Oh, sure.
some information to share.
Apologies, I didn't lower my hand.
Oh, okay.
No worries. So as far as being reevaluated, so I guess we'd want to, yeah, so I would reach out to, if you or a previous participant, reach out to I guess, an enrollment lead, or sure we'll have contacts here for after this webinar. And yeah, just reach out to enrollment lead. Depending on when the assessment was, we usually do like to come back out to see, what was, um, if anything's changed, because a lot of times, even within 9 months, properties change. Properties, sometimes, a water heater may have failed that we identified as eligible for, or lighting has changed, different things like that. So if it's been more than a year, we're for sure going to want to come out and see what's going on, if there's a difference. But yeah, if you're a previous participant, and maybe you can share some photos with us, or just info, we might be able to just kind of let what else would be available, and if it's a good option to re-enroll or look into that.
Awesome. So we are now at time. Thank you, everyone. I'll go ahead and hand it back to Hannah. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. You can go ahead and contact any of these numbers or emails, but we have the website listed on the slide as well. As Sean was just talking about, feel free to contact us if you have questions. One of the enrollment and outreach leads, like me or the rest of our team, will be in touch with you, and we're happy to answer any future questions that you guys have too.